So I recently downloaded and installed EndeavourOS on one of my VirtualBox. And all along, I thought it would be hard, as just like when you try to install Arch Linux, but it was actually quite painless, and at the same time also doesn't require that much technical skills. And I would actually recommend it for those who are still starting on Linux. Okay, so if you wanted to shift from Debian-based or Ubuntu-based Linux distribution, and you wanted to explore other distributions such as Arch-based distribution, and you wanted like a Manjaro or Endeavor, then I would suggest you try EndeavourOS. Okay. Um, okay. So I've already inserted the ISO file on the virtual disk, and let's try to boot it up now. So we have here EndeavourOS. Um, We have default, which is x86 64 BIOS. Okay, so let's just try to leave it as is. Let me just try to unpause. Okay, so I'm just going to press enter. Okay, so currently it will be loading. Then probing EDD. Okay, so to close. Let's just try to wait for the installation. So basically, EndeavourOS is an Arch-based Linux distribution. Okay, it is a successor to Antergos, which was actually discontinued in 2019. Okay, uh, like also Antergos, it features a graphical installer capable of installing XFCE, Budgie, Cinnamon, Deepin, GNOME or Genome, as some would pronounce it, i3, KDE, Plasma 5, LXQT, and Mate. Okay. Um, we also have the package manager, which uses Pacman as well as IOR. Okay. So it's also currently, of course, since this Arch base, it we could expect that it's a rolling release uh, type of Linux. Okay, so we have here. This is our welcome screen, by the way. So we have here start the installer, install community editions, update mirrors. Let's first try to change the display resolution by clicking display resolution. Let's try to change it to 1440 by 900. Set and stay. Okay. Then let's try to close. Okay. Next thing that we are going to do is let's try to install it already. So let's try to click start the installer. So EndeavourOS actually uses Cinnamon installer. You know, Calamaris installer, by the way. Sorry, not Cinnamon, it's Calamaris. Okay, so let's try to click start the installer. Okay. Uh, Now there's actually a difference between installing Manjaro from EndeavourOS. There's are certain things that would be required of us before we can actually install or before we can actually use EndeavourOS compared to Manjaro or compared to Ubuntu-based Linux distribution. One such thing is first is we will be asked if we wanted it to be online or offline installation. Okay, so in my case, I'm going to select online installation, online method. Okay, so basically online method lets you choose your desktop with vanilla theming. Okay, so internet connection is required. So we need to have an internet connection uh, so that the dependencies will be downloaded and will be installed uh, well, currently being downloaded. Okay, let's try to select online, then try to click online. So currently, this is the XFCE Offline edition. So the the live version, or yeah, the live version is actually uses XFCE. Okay, so we already have here Calamares. It's already starting. Okay, so we have here our Endeavor installer. Now, some parts actually is very much the same with other this Linux installation. So, like for example, this one, we will be asked to select the language. So, in our case, you'll just have to select American English, then click next. Asia Manila, okay, then click next also. Otherwise, or not unless you wanted to change it. Okay, so for keyboard model, let's try to use English US, then default. Okay, then click next. Okay, let's try to select erase disk. Okay, no swap, manual partitioning, we don't need that. Let's just try to select erase disk, then click uh, next. Okay, now this is actually where the fun part begins. Okay, so we have here base devel common packages. So these are actually common packages that needed to be installed. These are recommended. So don't change unless you know what you're doing. Okay, so these are the generic packages that needed to be installed. So we have default X system, graphics, hardware, and so on. So in my case, I normally will not be unchecking any of the packages. Okay, but I would be selecting the different desktop environment. So like for example, if I wanted to select i3, I'm going to check i3 window manager. Or if maybe I wanted to use GNOME desktop, I'm going to select GNOME desktop KDE and so on. So let's try to use this time. Let's try to select Cinnamon, or maybe let's try to select this one, i3 window manager. Let's try to select i3 window manager. So i3 tiling window manager, primarily targeted at developers and advanced users. So let's try to select this one. uh, so basically what will happen is that it will be installed along with our uh, base devel or common packages. Okay, so that's actually one of the things that I love about EndeavourOS. So we no longer need to install it separately, because during installation we can select the desktop environment and will be installed along with its base packages. Okay, let's just to select next. Okay, so what's your name? So, df df. Okay, so to specify the password. Okay, then next. Okay, so we have here, this is an overview. Install. Okay, so we have here continue with the installation. Let's try to select install now. Then it's okay. So now we are already going to install our, or it's now currently installing our EndeavourOS. So just a little bit of background with regards to EndeavourOS. It comes along with XFCE. The default desktop environment, by the way, is XFCE, just like what you see here on our ICE on the installation uh, desktop environment. Then we can also select Mate if you wanted to use Mate, Cinnamon, GNOME, your GNOME, LXQT, LXDE, i3 Window Manager, the one that we have selected, BSPWM, i3 Windows Manager and BSPWM is very much is the same. They're both tiling with the manager. Then we have also Sway, Compositor, and OpenBox. OpenBox is also a lightweight window manager with a minimalistic appearance. Okay, at least that's what it's being said on the documentation. As well as Qtile. Qtile is also a window manager, but it's written in Python. So its core, by the way, would still be Arch Arch-based Linux. That's what I've said. If you're new to Arch and you wanted to explore Arch, you can select maybe Manjaro or EndeavourOS. So in my case, I'll be shifting. I'm thinking already of shifting to. I will no longer be using Manjaro. Instead, what I'll be doing is I'm going to be using EndeavourOS because first thing that I've noticed with EndeavourOS is that I don't need to install different packages separately. Okay, so let's say for example I wanted to use a different login screen, so everything is I can just set it. I can just actually set it um, on the settings panel, and I don't need to separately install it and separately run it and set it as a service. So basically everything is just at the tip of my fingertips. Okay, so I'm also going to show you later some of the things that I have done with my previous installation of EndeavourOS. So I did some changes on my previous installation, so uh, which I'll be showing you as a screenshot at the end of this tutorial, or at the end of this installation guide. One of the things, by the way, that I've noticed is that it's a little bit longer to it will take a little bit longer to install compared to other Linux installation such as Ubuntu Baji, but for me it's actually really worth it. Um, the current release, by the way, is Atlantis Neo, first intermediate ISO release, kindly followed by the Edition Neo. So previously it was December 3, 2021, Atlantis 21.4 was released. Okay, the first release with a code name inspired by spacecraft themes. Okay, then on the latest release, by the way, was last December 17, 2021, which was nicknamed Neo. So it was Atlantis Neo release. Uh, it also introduced the community editions of OpenBox and Qtile. Okay, so we're all done with the installation. Um, we will be asked to restart the system now. Let's try to uh, put a check mark on the restart now. Then let's try to click done. Let's try to see the i3 window manager installed on our EndeavourOS. Okay, let's just try to wait first. It's loading. Okay, let me just try to remove the installation media settings, storage. Okay, so we still have it here. Try to remove, cancel. Okay, let me just try to reset. Okay, so default. Let's try to wait for the OS to boot. Triggering events. Okay, welcome to ENDEAVOUROS. Actually, it will be a lot faster if we're going to install it on your actual machine. So one of the reasons, by the way, that it's quite slow because I installed it on my VirtualBox, and I specified only 4 gig of memory. Maybe I'll try to increase my memory next time so that at least it'll be a little bit faster. Let's just try to wait first. Okay, so we already have here our login screen. So once we have here our name, and there's only one session available, the I3, because we didn't specify any other window manager. So let's try to log in this time. Let's try to see. Okay, so we are now inside our ENDEAVOUROS with our I3 window manager. It's actually our I3 window manager. So again, one of the first thing that I would normally do is I would actually try to, let's try to close. Let's try to close this Firefox. Okay, we have here after install. Okay, we have here change display resolution. Let's try to select 1440 by 900, then set and stay. Okay, let's try to escape. Okay, so we already have our desktop. Okay. Now, so key bindings would normally be would actually still be the same. So if you wanted to open a new terminal, all you have to do is press super, then enter. Okay, so we have here set. Okay, so if you wanted to open your Rofi, what you can do is you can press super then D. Okay, or you can press super then T for the terminal. So let's try to press super then D. Okay, so these are the different applications installed already on our um, ENDEAVOUROS. These are the different applications. Okay, so okay, let's try to do some installation this time. So let's try to move the I3 blocks from the bottom. Let's try to move it at the top. So sudo config I3 config. Let's enter. Okay, so as you've noticed, the config file of I3 is still very much on the same location as your other this is your typical I3 location. Just try to look for it. Has to be somewhere here. Okay, so we have here position bottom, position top. Let's try to press super shift R to reload. Okay. So as you've noticed, we already changed it from the bottom go to somewhere here on top. Okay, so uh, let's say, for example, we wanted to install another application. Sudo, say to do something like this. Sudo pacman dash r dash s. So ito install Ranger. Okay, proceed with installation. Yes. Ranger. Okay, so we already have our Ranger installed. Control Q. Sudo pacman dash r new vim. Okay, here in vim. Oh no, it's not dash r, it's dash s supposed to be. Sorry, it will be installed for us. Here, new vim. Okay. Okay. Now, what if, let's say, for example, we wanted terminal to be maybe transparent? So it's transparency. So if we're going to run pcom, okay, so as you've noticed, it's actually transparent. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to run it every time we try to boot our operating system. So how to do that? So sudo pacman sudo nano fig fig. Okay, maybe we can put it here at the bottom. So to put the comment, load pcom at startup exec pcom. Okay, next thing that we need to do is now one of the things, by the way, that we have to consider is that every time we try to reload or reboot our machine, it reverts back to 800 by 600 in terms of resolution. So we don't want that to happen. So what we can basically do is we can add this code, change resolution to Control C. Fourteen forty by 900. Okay, so what we can basically do is we just try to okay. Try to use this one. X. Okay, so we want to use this particular screen resolution. So exec x render dash dash output. Then since we have here virtual 1, let's try to use here virtual 1. Virtual 1 dash mode dash dash mode. Then 1440 by 900. Close. So to check if everything is working properly, so to reboot. just have to wait first, but it's still rebooting. Although the resolution would still be 800 by 600 on boot up on its login screen, but after logging in, it will actually change to 1440 by 900. So okay, so it's already working. So we have already changed the screen resolution to 1440 by 900. So let's try to also press Windows Super, then enter. Check. Okay, so we have our ENDEAVOUROS. So it's, as you can see, we were able to set the transparency. Now let's say we wanted to beautify our terminal. Let's try to press Super, then T, then try to look for this one, Super D, Firefox. I'll be using Chris Titus terminal shell. Just try to open it first. There seems to have a problem with my Firefox. Okay, so you have it here. Set to Google. Okay, so I've opened a lot of Firefox. GitHub. Okay, if you're GitHub. Try to put it in scripts. Then we will be using this one, fancy bash prompt. Okay, try to copy. So here sudo bash rc. Okay, so we already have it here. We are already able to beautify our terminal. Now, these are actually just some of the little things that I did with my EndeavourOS. So I will be finally shifting from Linux Mint on my one of my laptops to EndeavourOS because I think it's much more um, programmer friendly in terms of its user interface as well as its features compared to Linux Mint, which I think Linux Mint is actually also a great Linux distribution if you're more of a regular user. So I'll be installing a lot of applications. Maybe I'll be showing you some of the applications I've already installed. I'm also going to give you a screenshot of what I have done with my other EndeavourOS installation. Okay, so uh, that's it, guys. Thanks for listening and take care.